friends. Welcome to another adventure with fantastic first grade frogs. Now today's adventure is the beginning of a whole bunch of other adventures. This adventure is going to start us talking about different kinds of animals and the different groups that they're in. So here is my chart of all the living things there could be on our whole planet. Okay, so you think about all the different living things there are in the whole world, everywhere in the world. And there's basically 6 different kinds of living things that there can be. So the first one is bacteria, and there's actually 2 different groups of bacteria. But bacteria can be those things that make you sick, like germs. But there's also other kinds of bacteria. There's bacteria that live on the bottom of the ocean that live way down there, and they don't make you sick because they're way down there and they just kind of do their own thing. There's bacteria that live in all kinds of different places, all over the world. They're very small and we can't see them with just our eyes. So you needed a microscope in order to see them. The next group is called the fungus. Now a fungus you would know as a mushroom. Okay, there's all different kinds of fungus in the whole world, and there's different kinds of mushrooms, and they grow all over the world. They can be different colors and different shapes. And we always remember that if we find a fungus in our yard, we never actually eat it. We only eat the kind you buy at the store. But a fungus is basically like a mushroom. The next group are the protists. And that's those little one-celled organisms, one-celled things that live in, sometimes in water, in your ditch outside. If you go out and look, in fact, I was out looking the other day and I was seeing all kinds of really cool things out there in my ditch. You probably would need a microscope to see them. And you could look and see these little teeny weeny little things swimming around in the water. They could be plants or animals. And they're really kind of cool. Then we start getting into the things that we see more often. The plants and the animals. Now we pretty much have talked about plants. Evergreen trees and trees that have leaves that fall off in the fall. We've talked about those, and seeds and planting. So we've talked about plants quite a bit. Now we're going to get to animals. Now animals can be basically 2 different groups. And this is really, I'm simplifying this a lot. But there's basically 2 different groups that animals can be in. They can be an invertebrate, which means they don't have a backbone. Or they can be a vertebrate, which means they do have a backbone. Now, invertebrates, you might think of as like bugs or starfish under the ocean or crabs, that kind of creature. Vertebrates are 5 different kinds: fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Now, you might be thinking, vertebrates. What on earth are you talking about? Well, let's talk about vertebrae for a minute. Vertebrae just means a backbone. Everybody here has a backbone. You have a backbone. Katie the cat has a backbone. Your dog has a backbone. Your hamster has a backbone. Our fish have a backbone. Polly and Dickory, yep, they've got backbones. Let's take a look at a backbone for a minute. Okay. So what I have here are some bones from a turkey from a Thanksgiving a long time ago. And we boiled them in a soup, and we ate the turkey part, but we didn't, of course, eat the bones because that would be yucky. And so I took the bones and I put them on a chenille stick so that you could see kind of how a backbone works. So each of these little bones works together, and in the middle would be your spine, your nerves that go through the middle of the bones, and they go all through your body and help your body sense things and move and that sort of thing. But the bones help protect them, and the bones each bone itself doesn't move, but the bones move because they're kind of fit together, just like a puzzle. And so they can move this way and that way, like this, because they're fit together just right so they can work together to move and bend. So your backbone works pretty much the same way. Of course, it wouldn't look exactly like this because this one belongs to a turkey, but it looks something like that. Now you could probably feel your backbone if you put your hand back on your back, and you could feel along the back of your spine or your backbone. You could feel that on your back, but you're not actually going to feel the real bones because it's through your skin. Let's come up here and talk some more about the 5 classes of vertebrates. Oh, and Katie wants to join me. So there's 5 kinds of vertebrates. 5 kinds of vertebrates, 5 kinds of animals that have a backbone. The first one is fish. So there's all kinds of fish in the world. There's goldfish, there's guppies, there's all kinds of fish that live in the world. And we're going to talk about a lot of those fish as we go along. But that's one of the kinds of fish, of vertebrates. Fish have a backbone, and they swim around in the water, of course, but they have a backbone just like you do. The next kind is an amphibian. And the most recognizable amphibian is the frog. Now, salamanders are also an amphibian, and we don't usually see those around, but they are an amphibian too. And those are the animals that start out usually as a tadpole in the water, just like our tadpoles, and then they grow up into a frog or a salamander. The next kind of vertebrate is a reptile. Now, there's a lot of different kinds of reptiles, and I have a picture of a turtle right here, but there's all different kinds of reptiles. There can be alligators, lizards, snakes, of course, turtles, and those are all different kinds of reptiles, and they can live in many different kinds of places. And we're going to talk about some different kinds of reptiles in the next few weeks. The next kind of vertebrate is a bird. And you probably have these hopping around your backyard right now, just like I do. This happens to be a chickadee, but there are lots of different kinds of birds, and they live all over the world, of course. And some can fly, some cannot. You know, penguins, of course, live in Antarctica, some of them, and they cannot fly. But the songbirds that live in our yards, like robins and chickadees, they do fly, and they have feathers. And the final kind of vertebrate is a mammal. And mammals usually have some kind of hair, and you might know a mammal as your cat or your dog or Fuzzy Wuzzy or a hamster, or some of the squirrels that are running around in your backyard. I know there's squirrels running around in my backyard. So all of those are mammals. So those are the 5 classes of vertebrates, 5 different kinds of vertebrates: fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. And I have a little action poem you can do to kind of remember that, okay? So you can do this with me. You can go, fish, amphibians, kind of hop like a frog, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Get your hair out. Let's do it again. Fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals. That's how you can remember the 5 different kinds of vertebrates. Okay, we're going to read a book now about some just different kinds of animals, and we'll see if we can identify whether they are fish, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, or birds. So this book is called Animal Camouflage in the Forest. The author's name is Martha E.H. Rustad, and the consulting editor is Gail Saunders Smith. Animal Camouflage in the Forest has a lovely table of contents, but we are going to read the whole thing because it's kind of a short book. In the forest. In a leafy world, animals need to blend in. Camouflage in the forest helps animals stay safe. And we can see a little fawn here. A fawn is a baby deer. Now, would this be a fish? No. An amphibian? Hardly. Is that a reptile? Goodness, no. How about a bird? Well, I don't see it flying away. So that means that this is a mammal. It has fur on its body, and it's definitely a mammal. Squirrels live in the forest. Squirrels in the forest blend in with tree bark. These furry animals stay still when they hear predators. And you can see that it's blending in, definitely. But it is covered with fur, and so that makes it a what? That's right, it's a mammal. All mammals have some kind of fur or hair on them somewhere on their body. Gray tree frogs have spots that match tree trunks. These frogs can change color to match their surroundings. Now, it's kind of hard to see this little frog here on the tree trunk because he's really blending in, but he's there. Now let's think about that frog. Where does he go? Is he a fish? Definitely not. How about an amphibian? Yes, that's where he is. He is an amphibian because frogs are amphibians. Horned leaf chameleons stay safe on the forest floor. They look like dead leaves. Predators can't spot them. And it's kind of hard to see it because it's really blending in with this leaf, but there is a little chameleon right here. And this chameleon does not have fur, and it is not swimming in the water like a fish. It doesn't have feathers, and it's not an amphibian. It's a reptile. It goes in the group called the reptiles. Birds in the forest. Well, I think you know which class these are going in. Black and brown feathers hide screech owls in hollow trunks. Owls rest during the day. They hunt at night. And there it is, kind of hiding in the tree. This owl is covered with feathers, so that puts it in the bird category. Frogmouth birds have black and white feathers. These birds look like tree branches. And honestly, he is sitting there, and it's very hard to see it, but it is a bird, and it's covered with feathers. Now this one is going to be a little bit tricky. Bugs in the forest. A green body hides a katydid in the forest. Its body looks like a leaf. A bug. Is that a vertebrate? Does it have a backbone? Well, the answer is no. A bug or an insect is an invertebrate. It does not have a backbone, so it doesn't go in any of these categories. And so we're going to talk more about invertebrates at another time. Peppered moths match tree bark. They hide from birds during the day, and it's very hard to see it. It's right here on the bark of the tree. But again, it's an insect. It does not have a backbone, and so it's an invertebrate. And so we'll have to talk about them on another day because they are very fascinating creatures, but they do not have a backbone. They do have ways of holding themselves together, even though they don't have bones. So we will have to talk about that. Now let's read Fish Live in Water, because we didn't have any fish in that book, and we really need to get to the fish, don't we? Fish live in water. Fish live in oceans. Fish live in lakes or rivers. It says there are thousands of different kinds of fish. Most live in saltwater oceans. So this fish right here, it kind of looks very strange. It has lots of things poking out from it. It definitely looks different from this fish, and that's because there are so many different kinds of fish in the world. Fish live in very warm water. Fish live in very cold water. And it says many fish, such as cod and bullheads, live in water that is not warm or cold. So they like kind of medium water. Fish live near the top of the water. The water is light from the sun. Thus the fish that live near the surface are usually large and are fast swimmers. So you can see these fish and these fish don't look anything alike. They're two very different kinds, but they're both kinds of fish. Fish live in deep water. The water is dark and cold. Many deep water fish shine with lights made from chemicals in their bodies, and this one is shining. That's pretty cool. Again, they don't look anything alike. They're two completely different kinds of fish, but they're both fish. Fish live on the ocean floor. Fish live in the mud. So this fish is living in the mud at the bottom of the water. It says fish in the ocean, on the ocean bottom, feed on creatures that drift down from above. Fish live in caves. Fish live in water and on land. Not very many kinds of fish can do that, but there are some. It says fish that live in caves or tunnels often do not have eyes. Isn't that fascinating? Fish live in many different places. Doesn't that look kind of like our fish tank at school? So that was Fish Live in Water by Melvin and Gilda Berger. And we'll be exploring more about fish, but I wanted you to see that just like there's many different kinds of mammals like dogs and cats and bears and squirrels, there's also many different kinds of fish, and we'll be looking at different kinds of fish coming up. So I hope you enjoyed our first edition of Fantastic First Grade Frogs with Animals. And coming up soon, don't miss all these different kinds of animals that we're going to explore and take a look at in depth with each one. For now, have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.